No one ever picks up the phone. I mean, probably 3 out of 5% of the people that I call pick up the phone. Is cold calling even worth it? I can't tell you how many times I hear this from reps, and I don't blame you. If you have a 3% pickup rate, I mean, just to have one conversation, you got to call 30, 35 people. That probably takes you more than an hour, especially if you're using a manual dialer. So today we're going to talk about all about pickup rates and how to increase your pickup rates. And there's some specific tactics that I implement with reps so that they can have double digit plus pickup rates. So before we get to that though, thanks for tuning into the Outbound Squad podcast. My name's Jason Bay. I'm your host. Our mission at Outbound Squad is to help you turn complete strangers into paying customers. So if you're an SDR that's doing a ton of prospecting and outbound, cold emails, cold calling, that sort of stuff, or you're an account executive who is hopefully doing some outbound, then also selling and doing discovery, multi-threading, demos, negotiating, etc., you're in the right place. So today's tactics episode is going to be pretty quick. It's all about how to help you increase your pickup rates because if it's hovering around 3 to 5%, that's pretty tough. You got to make a lot of calls to get a conversation. And if you're an account executive, you might not have enough time in the week to even make that number of calls. So the first thing I think right away is from a tech standpoint, there's a few things that you can do. Orem is the number one solution I would check out. They are a sponsor in full disclosure, but they're the best tool I've seen out there in terms of a dialing solution that also allows you to put custom fields in and not mass blast, spray and pray, but still have a personalized intro and have notes and all that kind of stuff. So I would recommend checking out them. They also have automation in their tool that allows you to do, you know, to basically call phone numbers that are more likely to pick up. So the manual way to do this, there's a company called Phone Ready Leads. The way that they would do it is they would have virtual assistants in the Philippines or India. They would literally, you would give them a list, imagine, of 1,000 phone numbers, let's say. They would have their team dial through the list multiple times, and they would tell you which ones picked up the phone the most amount of times when they called them. So imagine you take 1,000 phone numbers, you hand me back a list of 100, and these are the people that picked up the majority of the time. So when I call them, it's like 1 out of 3, 1 out of 2 people are going to pick up. So imagine you're calling through your cell phone and you can talk to 3, 4, 5 people in an hour versus maybe one if you're lucky. So Orem's tool essentially does that in an automated way. It's a really badass. So there is technology that can help with this. So I would check out Orem. Getting a dialer is one way, and then having some sort of service or platform that verifies the phone numbers for you is another way. And then mobile phone numbers. I was working with Brendan Dodge. He helps us out here at Outbound Squad. He's an account executive, and he also helps out in our community and B2B sales school, which I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't. Not to do a bunch of pitching today in the episode, but it's right now at this time of recording, this is $99 a month for all of our courses. There's a couple office hours calls where you can get help from me, like live, and then we also run skill drills on a monthly basis where we teach things like I'm teaching today and just send you off to go implement it. So he helps a lot in that. One of the things he shared in the group recently was how he increased his pickup rates from like 3 to 15%, something along those lines. And it was simply just removing all of the numbers that weren't verified mobile phone numbers from his list and only calling people with a cell phone. So 3 to 15%, I mean, that's 5 times the amount of people that he's talking to when he picks up the phone. So calling cell phones and direct lines through Zoom Info or whatever data provider you use is really good. The second thing I'd recommend is being really strategic about when you call people. So specifically, I find that Mondays and Fridays are two very neglected days. We were taught in sales not to call people on these days because Monday they're getting really busy with a bunch of meetings, and Friday they're going to be really stressed out and not want to talk to you, or they're going to leave the office early. And it's just a bunch of bullshit. There's no data that actually supports that. If anything, oftentimes the pickup rates are higher on those days. So be really strategic about that. You want to cherry pick the times when you call prospects to the time that they are most likely to pick up. So if you're using a sales engagement tool like an Outreach, like a Sales Loft, like a Zoom Engage, Zoom Info Engage, whatever you're using, you can run a report or have your enablement or ops team run a report that shows you when the pickup rates are the highest, and just don't call people outside of those windows. You can literally double your pickup rate just by doing that. If you don't have that data, Zant and InsideSales.com used to be called Xant. InsideSales.com has a ton of data that supported in their analysis in the hundreds of thousands of calls made through the platform. The highest pickup rate was 8 to 11 a.m. local time for the prospect. So that's a good starting point to test. Second thing or third thing that I would recommend is calling 5 minutes before and after the top of the hour. Got that one from Mark Hunter. So you're basically trying to catch people between meetings. If you picture an executive, and I'm not an executive at the types of companies that you're reaching out to, but dude, my Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is slammed with back to backs. So you're not going to get a hold of me unless you catch me during my lunch break or you catch me like a few minutes between calls. So that's a great technique as well. The other one is following the engagement. So calling prospects right when they open your email. So having your sales engagement tool create a task for you to or notify you when people open emails, you're going to call them, when people watch videos, when people accept a connection request on LinkedIn. Look for the people that are showing signs of life and they're engaging with you and call those folks. And then lastly, call executive assistants and ask for help in getting a hold of the prospect. So you can call that executive assistant for the VP or someone in the C suite or whoever, and you can do a courtesy call. I learned this from a guy, Jordan Greek, who participated in one of our programs in the past. And it went essentially along these lines. Hey, this is Jason. I know this is maybe a bit of an odd request, but I've been trying to get a hold of David. Looks like he's opened up several of the emails that I've sent him, and I was putting in a courtesy call because usually that means that they have a lot of questions. Could you put me in touch with David? Right? That technique can work pretty well. So that's all I got for you today. Put some of these techniques into action to increase your pickup rates, and you're going to have a way more productive time on the phones. Stay tuned for our next episode. We're going to do a live training with the folks over at Zoom Info and Orem on cold calling. We're going to talk about cold calling in 2024. And specifically, we're going to dig into old school tactics that you may have been doing in these last couple of years that are just not going to work this year. That's all I got for you. Thanks for checking out Outbound Squad. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Leave us a quick review, and we'll see you next episode.